intelligence. Again, this theme in the Mothman prophecies, that some of the personal experiences that were besetting John Keel in the form of strange phone calls, strange phenomena happening with electronic devices. Loren, did he ever talk to you about his experiences as a 12-year-old on a farmhouse? Does that ring any bells?
No, well, no. I mean, I've read about it where he, saw different things and almost poltergeist type activity and different things. But why don't you go ahead and tell that story?
Well, from the best of my recollection, he says that at the age of 12, living on this farmhouse, that at night he was hearing these knockings in the wall, and that he actually started seemingly communicating with whatever force, intelligence, whatever was at work, in such a way that he felt convinced that he was communicating with some other discarnate intelligence. And I certainly think that has informed a lot of his ideas, and that certainly can lead to an interpretation of so many of these phenomena as being demonological, because certainly there's the world-famous book, the Bible, where they talk about demons and fallen angels who don't always have the best interest at heart of humanity. And, of course, the very story at the heart of the Mothman prophecies is a disaster, and it's the portents and strange phenomena that seem to precede it and predict it. A lot of what you've written about, as you were starting to say, deals with the name game and these strange synchronicities, these meaningful coincidences, sometimes between UFO reports and out-of-place kangaroo sightings, and the name game, where names that are not the most common, that you would think statistically would come up more often than not, don't in UFO reports. In fact, these other Reeves, Warren, Lafayette, and others come up over and over again. Can you talk about how you developed your ideas about that, and how Keel saw that?
Well, in terms of Keel's way of looking at it, even though he used the word demonological, he very much felt that there were elementals and ultra-terrestrials, as he called them. They were here. They lived in a parallel universe to us. I mean, some people like to talk about fourth dimension, but Keel almost felt like they were just among us, and we did not have the ability most of the time to really see them because they were out of our range of sight. But that these entities, or this form of intelligence, was so intelligent that they would actually manipulate human beings by showing us different phenomena, either coincidences with names, harmonic interactions on Wednesdays after the 21st of the month, especially in April, for instance, on the ridges of hills. So he had a very complex way of looking at the world, which was, I think in many ways, one of my friends on a radio show recently said, he was crazy. He was, and if you look at it from a distance, this is a crazy man who is speaking intellectually and putting it down in print and coming forth with a lot of different Fortean examples and old cases and different things that kind of makes it all come together. His own poltergeist-type experiences, very much for Keel, overlapped with the Fox sisters. And Keel was in many ways obsessed with and talked to me quite a bit about the year 1848. 1848 was a year, if you look around the globe, there were revolutions all over Europe, all over the United States, and it was the kind of, there was this one special area called the Burned Over area, the Burned Over region, which is around Rochester, New York. And in that one area, you have Mormonism, Seventh-day Adventists, abolitionism, a lot of different religions and cults, and the Fox sister and spiritualism, all coming out of this region, all close in time and space. And Keel made a very big deal of that feeling that was the ultra-terrestrials really playing games, and he liked to use the word cosmic jokers, that they were really, being cosmic jokers and just manipulating. So sometimes Keel would, even though he would use the word demonological, it wasn't oftentimes demons the way that Christians see demons, but it was more demons in terms of tricksters and elementals and parallel universes. In other words, just a word like angel. I mean, he felt that angels could be just as nasty as demons, and it was really talking about humans trying to give a label to something that he felt was just around us and getting a good laugh based upon how they were making fun of humans.
Exactly. I think he definitely saw, as you say, this sense of every culture has had different words for these, and demons is the more Western anglicized version, and each culture has these kind of trickster elements that sometimes don't necessarily have bad intentions, but are definitely out to mess with your sense of the nature of reality and to maybe even educate you. And I think I got a sense, and I know like people who like Dr. Stephen Mizrak, who's a good friend of mine, who has written on Keel's ideas and wrote a really great movie review of the Mothman movie, comparing it to the book, and sees this Keel's appreciation of this multicultural aspect, and that these entities have often contacted people and seem to influence human history in ways that implies what Vallet's directly called a control system, and what Keel intimates a lot in his work. Conjuring imagery of quote-unquote mind control sleepers and UFOs as psychological warfare propaganda, and yet at the heart of that, having a very spiritualist sense. Again, he's himself invoked, as you say, this memory of the Fox sisters and their interfacing with this other realm. He really seems to give a sense of the world, the sense of magicalness and this aliveness that I think both Ivan Sanderson talked about, and Terence McKenna, and a number of other people. This idea that the planet is alive, and that this phenomena is one aspect of its aliveness, and that we interact with it in ways that end up influencing our history in pretty grandiose ways, the creation of religious movements and whole ways of thinking about the hierarchy of existence.
Yeah. I think one of the cautionary tales, though, coming out of Keel that is not really realized yet by a lot of people that are really devotees of Keel, is that if you compare, for instance, the personality of Ivan Sanderson, a really happy-go-lucky Scotsman who enjoyed people, who was very social, who laughed a lot, compared to the Keel personality, where he was very closed, often paranoid, oftentimes very sarcastic, using the excuse that he was trying to use the humor of Charles Fort, but it would come out with a kind of a tinge to it that sometimes was extremely mean. And so when I went down to Point Pleasant, for instance, in 2001, 2002, to re-interview some of the Linda Scarberry and Marcella Bennett and some of the early witnesses, the stories that I would hear of the influence that Keel had on the lives of, for instance, Linda, where she said that after she talked to Keel, Keel had scared her so much that she put crosses on every one of her walls in her house, and she had a mental health breakdown, was in a hospital, and even today looks like a skeleton based upon really being stirred up, and as opposed to her early writings and reports were that she saw a bird, to later, if you read some of the more recent interviews, she talks about this thing, having arms and legs, and you can even read in Keel's